Hello, and welcome back to Two Therapists Walk Into a Podcast. I'm Robin Green, an LCSW in Tucson, Arizona.
And I'm Stephanie Edsall, also an LCSW. I am joining from Salt Lake City, Utah.
As always, we are so grateful that you're here. This is Series 10, All the Pendencies. And for this episode, we are going somewhere that feels important and necessary and likely a little heavy.
So before we go any further, we do want to offer a genuine heads up. Today's episode touches on specific family of origin experiences, including enmeshment, parentification, and emotional incest. I know it's kind of an intense term, both covert and overt. These are terms we'll define and explain, but the territory they point to can be tender for a lot of people.
If you need to step away at any point, pause, take a breath, maybe come back later. That's definitely not just okay. That's you taking care of yourself. And that's exactly what this work is about.
Each episode in this series stands on its own. So wherever you're joining us from, welcome. And if this one isn't for today, that's okay too. It'll be here when you're ready.
That's right. Let's get it. Before we go anywhere today, let's just take a moment together, noticing where you are right now. What's around you? The air in the room. Whatever sounds have been there the whole time, and you've been only half aware of them. I want you to notice those. Taking a breath and allowing yourself to land here with us. This episode might ask something of you. It may go into something that's new for many of us. And this isn't, just clinical or intellectual. It's really personal. It touches the earliest relational experiences we have. The first people we loved. The first environments that taught us what love and safety and connection were supposed to feel like. Whatever comes up for you today, maybe a memory, a feeling, a recognition, something that tightens somewhere in your body. Allow yourself to have it. Even just a little. You don't have to manage it or set it aside or even get through it cleanly or know what it means. Just be here as much as you're able. Stephanie, I want to start with the blueprint itself because I think before we really get into the specific patterns, we need to talk about what a family system actually does to a developing nervous system.
Absolutely, Robin. I think the most important thing to say right at the start is we don't choose our first relational classroom. We arrive in a family system before we have any capacity to evaluate it, before we have language, before we have any frame of reference for what's normal or healthy or appropriate. The family is just the world. It's all there is. And whatever happens in that world becomes the template.
Yeah. And the nervous system learns what a relationship feels like inside that template, what safety feels like, what closeness feels like, what to expect when you need something, what happens when you show up as even fully yourself or as you know it. All of that gets wired in early before the thinking brain has much say in it all.
That means the patterns we're talking about today, enmeshment, parentification, and emotional incest, these are not just psychological concepts. They're experiences that shaped the body that got written into the nervous system as the baseline for what relationship is.
Let's start with enmeshment. It's a term from family systems theory, Salvador Minuchin, originally, and at its core, it describes a family system where the boundaries between people are so diffuse that an individual identity gets lost. Not through malice, necessarily, often through love, but the effect is that there's very little room for a person to have their own separate inner life, their own feelings, their own needs, their own developing sense of self. And without it somehow becoming everyone's business or everyone's burden.
Yeah, enmeshment can look very different depending on the family. It can look like a parent who needs to know everything, every feeling, every thought, every friendship. It can look like a family where conflict is so threatening that everyone manages everyone else's emotional state constantly. It can look like love that has no membrane around it, so it's going to flood rather than nourish.
That imagery.
Yeah,
right?
It's pretty intense, yeah.
And the child in that system learns something very specific, that their inner life isn't fully their own. That having a feeling means managing how that feeling lands on everyone else. So that growing up in a way, which is what children are supposed to do, feels like almost a betrayal.
It really does. It's really hard to try to frame that.
Mm-hmm.
Parentification takes that a step further. It's that dynamic where a child takes on emotional or functional caretaking of a parent or of the family system as a whole. And there are two flavors worth distinguishing. Instrumental parentification is the more visible one. This is the child who becomes the family manager. They handle logistics, take care of younger siblings, make appointments, transportation, those kinds of things, sometimes even employment. These children are going to fill the practical gaps where a parent can't or won't fill.
Right. And then there's the emotional parentification, which is a little bit more subtle and in some ways more impactful. This is the child who becomes the parent's emotional confidant, their primary source of support, the one that parent turns to with their loneliness, their marriage problems, their fears, their grief. The child who learns that their job in the family is to regulate the parent, really rather than being regulated by them.
Children do this. It's important to say this clearly. Because they love their parents, because they are wired for attachment, and they will do whatever it takes to maintain it, including carrying weight that was never theirs to carry.
Which brings us to covert and overt emotional incest. And we really wanted to define these terms carefully because we believe that they're not always well understood and they can land with a lot of charge. Ken Adams coined the term emotional incest to describe what happens when a parent makes a child their primary emotional partner, and it exists on a spectrum.
Overt emotional incest is more recognizable. A parent who shares explicitly inappropriate content with a child, who treats them as a peer or a confidant in ways that cross clear lines, who involves them in adult conflicts, adult sexuality, adult intimacy in ways that are unmistakably inappropriate.
Mm-hmm. And covert emotional incest is harder to name because it often doesn't look wrong from the outside. It might look like closeness, like a special bond, like a parent who just really values their relationship with their child. And underneath, there's a dynamic where the child's emotional resources are being drawn on to meet the parent's needs, possibly for companionship, for validation, for a sense of being loved and chosen, in a way that reverses the appropriate flow of care, if you will.
Yeah, that makes sense. The child in that dynamic then often grows up feeling simultaneously special and trapped, the double bind. So while they're deeply connected to the parent, they are unable to fully individuate from them. So they're guilty feeling all the time for wanting their own life, responsible for the parent's emotional well being in a way that follows them long into adulthood.
And what ties all these patterns together is the same thread: the child's needs, the child's developing self, the child's right to grow up in a way. All this gets subordinated to the needs of the system, and then the child eventually just adapts. They do what they need to do to maintain the attachment, like we said. Then those adaptations then become your own blueprint,
Yeah.
right? And so change, does require a new blueprint.
Well, it does. Remember, we're not talking like through this lens of it being a flaw. This is a map drawn under very specific conditions, one that can be redrawn slowly, carefully, with the right support when the time comes.
Let's talk about what all of this does in the body, because I think it's easy to understand these patterns intellectually and still not fully grasp maybe what they cost at that somatic level.
The family system is the first co-regulation environment a nervous system ever knows. Before there's any capacity for self-regulation, the child's nervous system is being regulated or dysregulated by the people around them. The parent's nervous system is literally shaping the child's, teaching it what calm feels like, what threat feels like, what to expect from closeness.
And in a system where the child is carrying emotional weight that belongs to the adults, where they're parentified, where the boundaries are enmeshed, where their job is to manage rather than being managed, the nervous system learns a particular kind of vigilance, the same hypervigilance we talked about with fawning. And this is wired in even earlier and even more deeply.
Exactly. The body learns to track the parent's state before its own, to prioritize external regulation over internal experience. And that pattern, that orientation outward, becomes the default, the nervous system's home base.
And then what's so important to really understand is that this isn't damage in the way we sometimes think of damage. Again, it's that adaptation. The system did exactly what it needed to do to survive in that particular environment without that awareness. And so the problem is that the adaptation travels. It's going to show up in adult relationships and work, and even how a person responds to intimacy and conflict and need long after the original environment is gone.
Yes, the body doesn't know the environment has changed until it has enough new experiences to begin to update its map, which is slow work, patient work, but very possible work.
Always possible.
We want to leave you with something a little different today, something that speaks directly to what this episode has been about.
If any of what we've talked about today has landed somewhere personal, or even if you recognize yourself in any of it, we want to offer a small, simple invitation.
Just take a moment to think about the child you were. Not to analyze them or to diagnose them or figure out what went wrong. Just to acknowledge them. The kid who did what they needed to do. Who loved who they loved as hard as they could with what they had.
And if you can offer them something, it doesn't have to be elaborate. It might just be a quick internal acknowledgement. You were doing the best you could, and that wasn't yours to carry. And I see what you were carrying.
It's really beautiful. For some people, this kind of inner child work feels natural. For others, it feels strange or uncomfortable, maybe a little too much right now, and that's completely okay. You don't have to go anywhere you're not ready to go.
Right? And if it feels like too much today, we want you to just notice that. That is information too, and it's enough.
So come back to it when it feels right. It'll be there.
Here is something to sit with this week.
What did you carry in your family that wasn't yours to carry? And do you still have it?
Allow that to land wherever it lands, and you don't have to have an answer. Sometimes I think the question itself does the work.
So do I. If grief shows up alongside the recognition, that makes sense. Grieving what should have been different is not a weakness. It's clarity. It's seeing things as they actually were, maybe for the first time.
I think that's really important work too, especially when it's hard.
Next time we're shifting the lens towards something warmer. We're talking about prodependency, Robert Weiss's reframe, and what it looks like to love someone in a hard place without losing yourself in the process.
I think it's a really good one to have after this one.
It really is. Come back for it.
You are in good company here.
And remember, healing isn't linear, and we're here for the ride. This podcast is for educational purposes only, and it is not a substitute for therapy, medical care, or professional advice.
Listening to this podcast or this episode does not create a therapeutic, clinical, or professional relationship with us.
If you're experiencing distress, physical symptoms, or emotional concerns that feel overwhelming, we both encourage you to seek support from a qualified healthcare or mental health professional.
And if you are in immediate danger or need urgent support, please contact local emergency services or a crisis line in your area.